everybody, Jeff Miller here, head of SAT instruction at Target Test Prep. In today's video, we're going to talk about the best way to study for the SAT, so let's get moving. First off, before we dive into some tips, understand there are two phases of your prep. You got the learning phase and you got the practice test phase. The learning phase is going to take up the bulk of your prep, probably about 85% of it time-wise. In that phase, of course, you're learning the content. We'll talk about how to study during the learning phase, what kind of study plan to follow, but you're learning. The practice test phase is when you're done with the learning and you jump into your practice exams, and that phase is what's going to lead you all the way up to test day. One of my favorite strategies, take a topical approach to your studying. Can't tell you how many times I've mentioned this in my videos, but it's so important. What does that mean? It means you focus on one topic, only practice that topic until you achieve mastery. Let's take quadratic equations, one of the quant chapters, math chapters from our SAT course. What do we have in it? Well, foiling quadratics, factoring quadratics, the discriminant, the quadratic formula, the difference of squares, quadratic identities, factor by grouping, etc. You learn all of that first. You get the formulas down, you take notes, you make flashcards, then you practice just quadratic equations. That's going to help you see, hey, did I master the material or did I not? It's going to be clear whether you did through that practice. Wherever you still have gaps, you go back, you refresh, fill in those gaps, and then you rinse and repeat down the line with other math and other verbal topics. Strategy number 2, alternate between your math and verbal prep. I find a mistake that people make a lot when studying for the SAT is they say, well, I really like math, so I'm going to do 3 months of math, I'll figure out verbal later. And then by the time they get to verbal, things are okay with math, but 2 months after that, what do you still remember from your math prep? That's an issue. You do not, under any circumstances, want to get to the end of the learning phase and say, oh boy, I've forgotten what I've learned 3 months prior. So how do you fix that? Well, this is what we do in our Target Test Prep study plans. You alternate between quant and verbal. Doesn't mean every hour back and forth. It doesn't even mean every day. Maybe you learn a math topic sufficiently through your topical practice, then you switch over to a verbal topic, and then back and forth, back and forth. That way you're actually tickling different parts of your brain anyway, and by doing all math, you may forget things, but by doing math, going to verbal, then coming back, it's going to help you with a lot of spaced repetition. It's going to help you remember things, and ultimately it's probably going to make your studying more enjoyable because you're doing different topics within different weeks, and you probably won't forget stuff. So make sure you're alternating between math and verbal. 3, this is a biggie. Take notes while learning. Convert those notes to flashcards. Those are two separate thoughts. Let's start with notes. Why do we take notes? I don't care if you're watching video lessons or reading them. If you're just watching and doing nothing, you might think you're learning, but you're probably not learning as much as you should. If you're just reading, here's my computer screen, and you're just reading and you're not taking notes, again, probably not learning as much as you think you are. Why? Because your mind wanders. You need to be being an active learner. What's an active learner? It's taking notes, putting things in your own words as you're learning them to ensure you understand them and to force yourself to have hyper focus when you're learning. Then you take these great notes, you convert them to flashcards, whether it's an app, whether they're old school written flashcards. You want those so you can look at them and do mini study sessions anytime you want throughout your prep. It's going to help you get an extra study time. It's going to help you learn to remember stuff from past topics. Earlier, we talked about the quadratic formula and the discriminant. Well, if you learn that stuff week 1 of your math prep, what's going to happen on week 9 if you haven't reviewed it? That's the beauty of the flashcards. You can put the quadratic formula on, you can put the information you need about the discriminant on the flashcard, and you can look at it constantly. So again, make sure you're taking notes, make sure you're converting those to flashcards. Or make sure that you're looking over your error log at least once a week. The error log is important. Yes, there's content errors that'll be in that error log, but also those big macro errors that you're having on math and verbal stuff, careless errors, timing issues, not reading your handwriting properly, getting nervous, going for trap answers. You got to know when those are affecting you and how, because you certainly don't want them showing up on test day. The only way to do that is to be aware of them in real time and then go through and examine that error log. Now, with the Target Test Prep course, we have an error log that's easily accessible and questions can be easily added to it. You may have to do a more manual one if you don't have a course like TTP. But then the other aspect is, as you're going through the error log, delete the things that you know so you're not going through an error log of 1,000 questions by the time you get to your prep. So you have to create the error log, maintain it, organize it, and you'll be set. Do that all the way up to test day. Let's now talk about the practice test phase. And my final tip, when you get into the practice test phase, take as many practice tests as you can, official ones, spread them out. Do not try to rat-a-tat-tat, take them day after day after day. Your mind will just blow up. Mentally, it won't help you prepare for your exam. Try to spread them out, maybe 5 days, 7 days. You might have to do them on weekends, but plan that out well before you get to that phase because you'll know your schedule. If you have practices after school, probably can't do it. You can maybe do it on days off of school, but you don't have practice, or potentially weekends. But the point is, get in there and save yourself at least 4 weeks, if not more, for that practice test phase so you have plenty of time to take them, acclimate yourself to those test day conditions, utilize the data from those practice exams to see where you're still weak, and of course, fill in those content gaps. If you can do that and give yourself plenty of time to get through the practice test phase, presuming that you've done everything we've asked you to do in the learning phase, I'm telling you, you should be in a great spot for test day. So I'm looking forward to seeing you go through the practice test phase, go through the learning phase, and knock the SAT out of the park. That's it for today's video. I had a great time talking about the best ways to study for your SAT. If you enjoyed today's video, please follow our channel, subscribe to our channel, leave comments for videos you want to see in the future. And until next time, everybody, happy studying, and we'll talk soon.